one of, particularly in science fiction, you're playing what if all the time. Well, what if this happened? Well, what if that happened? Um, and then what would be the story? So I had the idea, well, what if plants could think? And they have all of these other things that they can do. Well, what if plants could think? Well, how could I make a story around that?
It seems to me that you are posing questions about what you don't know instead of repeating what you've memorized in a biology textbook. Okay? And I think those are two different types of consciousness. A type of consciousness that is aware of what it doesn't know, of asks questions about what it doesn't know, of imagines about what it doesn't know, versus a type of consciousness that is good at memorizing a biology textbook. And and so that's what I'm asking about in you. Um, if you're aware, because that's what I'm sensing from you, okay? And that's what I sense in your novel. Uh, I'm I'm asking you if I mean, assuming I'm right, okay? Are you aware of that type of consciousness in you that is doing this, that is asking questions about what you don't know instead of repeating what the textbook says?
Well, if I did that, it's because I did a lot of research, actually talked to some botanists, read a lot of their books. They don't know either. And so if I, you, you talk about a biology text, well, maybe a very basic biology text will tell you that. But some of the books I've read is like, okay, and we observe, and the plants do this, and we don't know why, and we don't really have very good observations anyway. Um, and we know that under certain circumstances they do different things, and the scientists themselves don't know. They know some things, but there's a lot that they don't know, and they will tell you they don't know. So if I sound like them, well, that's because these are really hard questions and we don't know.
Well, you could be. You just said there's some scientists who are aware of what they don't know, and there's some scientists that are not aware of what they don't know. And it seems that you prize and value the scientists that know what they don't know versus the scientists that don't know what they don't know. Um, so if you prize and value the scientists that know what they don't know, doesn't that mean you are thinking like them, that you have that type of consciousness?
I hope so. I really enjoy reading some of their books, spending time with them. Um, going to scientific presentations and hearing them talk. I think the majority understand that um, the limits of what they understand and what they know. The really good ones.
Mhm.
It's a pretty bad scientist who's believes they know everything. Um, I don't think that real any hardly any real scientists think they know everything. The or the more you know, the bigger the border of the things that you don't know.
You said in an interview that you wanted to be a writer before you could read, from the time your mother read to you from the imaginative books of Dr. Seuss. Do you see any similarities between your experience of Dr. Seuss books and your novel about alien consciousnesses?
Well, we've got green eggs and ham. We've got Horton Hears a Who. He was wonderfully imaginative. I remember Oobleck. I must have read that book 100 times when I was a little kid. Um, it's Oobleck. It's this green, thick. green sticky stuff that falls out of the sky and causes all sorts of problems. And I forget what it was that began to make the oobleck fall. But yeah, it was wonderful imagination of, well, what if something totally weird happened? Um, and that's fun of it. And that's just a fun imagination game. What if? And that's one of, particularly in science fiction, you playing what if all the time. Well, what if this happened? Well, what if that happened? Um, and then what would be the story? Because so it's easy to get ideas. I mean, I can get 3 ideas before breakfast every day. But how do you turn that into a story? So I had the idea, well, what if plants could think? And they have all of these other things that they can do. Well, what if plants could think? Well, how could I make a story around that? And I thought about that and just, could I do it on Earth? What if, like some thinking plant sort of found its way here, or the plants here started thinking? And I thought the best way would be put it on another planet. So, okay. And then I started to do some research of, what are other planets like? How do you form another planet? I knew I had a novel. And another thing we know about plants on Earth is that certain plants are very social. Trees in particular, they build big communities, they communicate, they help each other. Plants build their own little communities, they have social lives of a sort. And we know that if you put an intelligent species that needs a social organization into solitary confinement, that is torture. In According to the United Nations, putting a prisoner in social solitary confinement is torture, literally. Um, so, if I had a plant, it's pretty big, it's a tree, and it's very social. Um, so it needs a society, and humans come, and we can create a society for it, but it needs to eat animals. It needs the nutrients from us. So it wants to eat us, but it doesn't because it desperately needs us because it's alone, and to be alone is torture. Well, okay, so now I have a plant with a problem. It's hungry, but it doesn't want to eat the species that are very common around it that it very easily could eat, but it needs them at the same time. And that is basically the character of Steveland, is that he's actually a plant with who's not totally mentally well. He's got some real abandonment issues. He's got a lot of anxieties, and then humans show up, and eventually they help him get better. But he has some hard moments to get through of how does he deal with the need to consume animals, but also be part of the animals' lives. So that's what I set it up. And people don't necessarily understand this. I mean, I did this very consciously. They just understand that Steveland has got a lot of character and he's got a lot of issues.
Um, as I listen again to what you're saying, I sort of summarize in my mind 3 things about this conversation. Um, One is that you've talked about unconscious elements in your writing that come from your mind, um, but you don't. They arise from some sort of mysterious process, but they're still from your mind. That you have a strong awareness of what's unknown, and that you're also have a strong capacity for speculating what's beyond what's known. The what if question that made you want to read that book by Dr. Seuss hundreds of times. The what if questions that you've explained help you to to write and imagine the world of your novel. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking and asking questions, but also being respectful of what plants are like. Um, Too, I mean, if nothing else, I came away understanding that plants are real important beings of themselves.
Hmm. Well, I think I was a plant, I'd want to be a succulent. What about you?
I don't know. I think a deciduous plant leads a much more adventuresome life, um, because they cope with a more complicated environment and climate, but they have some very exciting moments. Um, Succulents do some interesting things. Um, I don't know how to decide.
Hmm.
That plant behind me that you can see that looks sort of featheryish and green,
I see it.
that's a jungle cactus.
Oh,
It's a
really?
cactus that lives in a jungle. Ordinarily, it basically glues itself to a side of a tree, and it gets its water from the rain,
Hmm.
and that's how it grows.
What jungle?
It comes from Uruguay.
As we reach the end of this conversation, what do you think has happened in this conversation?
Um, I think that I demonstrated my enthusiasm for plants a lot. I think that they're very exciting. Um, and I really enjoyed. I wrote Semiosis, and then there are actually it's part of a trilogy. So I wrote two more, and in the third book, the bamboo species, the Steveland species, comes to Earth. But remember, and bamboo, Steveland is an aggressive plant, and Steveland is an ambitious plant, and Steveland also has a very high opinion of himself. Um, so they come to Earth and they want to take Earth over. I mean, it's just their nature. It was just a lot of fun to imagine what that would be like. Um, so I don't know if I answered your question, but I hope that I conveyed that there's a lot of enthusiasm behind all of these ideas. It's just fun for me to write, and it was fun for me to write these particular books because one of the things I tried to do was keep it as scientifically accurate as I could, except for this one little miracle where the plants are intelligent. And they come to Earth, and I assume that plants at least do some sort of thinking. And how do they deal with now their new environment? That was fun too.